That's electricity, water, and rail. All the authorities that are dealing with those problems, all the enterprises, are a disaster.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver his State of the Nation address later today. But what will he announce? Joining me to discuss is Jonathan Katzenellenbogen. He is a writer with the Daily Friend online newspaper. So Jonathan, if past SONA addresses by President Ramaphosa are anything to go by, today's event should be something of a damp squib. But nevertheless, what are your expectations for the speech today?
Well, I don't think the big item that everyone is waiting to see whether there will be something on it in SONA is the basic income grant. I don't think there'll be a scrapping of the social grant system and its replacement by a basic income grant, as I think that will take ages to do, and you've got to enroll people on the tax system, depending on how they do it, so they can receive those basic income grants. And it should also involve the scrapping of the existing social grant system, unless they're going to blow the budget out of the water. But what there'll be an extension of the COVID social distress grant of 350 Rand a month. They might increase that, but that, it seems, is going to become a permanent feature of the budget and will help workers who are either earning very low salaries through a tough period. But I think that's going to be permanent because people will take to the streets if they threaten to withdraw it. And so to buy social peace, and indeed for Ramaphosa to gain re-election come November as president of the ANC, they're going to have that as a permanent feature of the budget. What else can we expect from SONA? And of course, the other populist measure will be and they've told Business Day that they're going to introduce job reservation on foreigners working in certain sectors. So that's really a response to the EFF's bully boy tactics in going around restaurants and asking them for a list of foreigners working there. I don't know how this is going to work, but it certainly will cause disruption to the industry, as many of the staff there have been working for a long time. But many of the foreign staff, who they think are foreign, will be South African by now. And besides, they're legally here on work permits. So are they going to rewrite their work permits and say you can't work in certain sectors? Again, it's going to be interesting to see how this works and if it works.
Well, we've had job reservation in South Africa in the past. That didn't work out too well. So hopefully we don't see a repeat of
it. No, it results in a vast misallocation of resources, and it's totally efficient and unjust.
No, I agree with you, Jonathan. And with regards to the COVID relief, I think it's very interesting to see when there were attempts to wind that back last year. Quite soon afterwards, we saw the riots, as you mentioned in your article. So I think the government is very aware of that risk. And as Milton Friedman once said, there's nothing as permanent as a temporary government program. So I think that definitely applies here. But what about the question on everybody's lips? Where will the major reforms be? It seems that Mr. Ramaphosa is always kind of actually trying to appease both the populists and the reformers and ends up pleasing neither. We've seen a lot of high expectations of reform, but as we've often argued on the channel, we don't see any reforms on the horizon, at least from this administration. What do you think would be the most cogent and necessary areas for reform, Jonathan?
Well, of course, I think we've got to reintroduce a degree of flexibility into the labour markets. The two big problems are slow growth and low unemployment, and related to that, the large budget deficit. So they've got a problem here. The ANC continually goes for these attempts at workaround problems. So instead of addressing the dysfunctional labor markets, they go for big employment creation schemes. There are a number on the go at the moment, and there's the extended public works program, but these are not sustainable. Government is unlikely to be in this business of creating jobs forever. And besides, the resources of the government are limited. So the way to go and what true reform would really amount to would be a abandonment of the centralized bargaining system in this country. Under this, big companies and big unions impose wages on an entire sector, the sectors that are negotiated in the bargaining councils, and these are not market related to the positions of smaller firms who don't have big market share and whose labor costs, as a percentage of total costs, way exceed those of the large companies. So, what is the path to building jobs and creation of jobs and new opportunities? It has to be, one of the avenues has to be through the change of wage bargaining and new settlement measures for this to make wages more market related.
So, Jonathan, many observers of past SONA addresses have complained that the president hasn't gone far enough in addressing some of the problems at state-owned enterprises. There's certainly a lot of rhetorical commitment to improving the performance and the capacity of these. They're often held up as a strategic asset. But the dysfunctionality, the waste, the corruption continues. Why has the president been so reluctant or unable to institute the reforms that are necessary, particularly liberalization of Eskom?
One of the reasons, really, you're perfectly right, is that I think the ANC ideologically is rooted in 1970s British socialism to an extent. And this reflects it. We must control what they see as the commanding heights of the economy. But, this has been an absolute disaster. Under state hands, none of these enterprises will ever flourish, and they're having difficulty even fulfilling their own so-called reforms of dealing with of turning around the network industries. That's electricity, water, and rail. All the authorities that are dealing with those problems, all the enterprises, are a disaster. Transnet, Portnet, Eskom, and PRASA, the rail service, are an absolute disaster. And in practical terms, they've got to give up trying to do this by themselves and allow privatizations and free up the market. But I just don't see them doing that because of patronage politics and ideology.
Jonathan Katzenellenbogen, thank you very much for joining us on the CRA. Let's hand over to you, our audience. What do you think President Ramaphosa will announce in today's address? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, a quick reminder that the CRA is looking to hire an analyst. So if you would like to join our team, please do email info@cra-sa.com. Please include your CV, some writing samples, as well as a 60-second video clip where you identify the most pressing and urgent risk facing South Africa today. My name is David Ansara. This is the CRA. Until next time, take care.